one's gonna stop rock and roll from existing.
What have we done?
I think we jumped back.
Call up to the gods and reach the sky. My soul is lost, I will not die. Heaven is so far, it's hell on earth torn for. And remember, Batman has always got your back.
Jump into the fourth mother box. Oh, it's Independence Day weekend. It's Sunday morning, so you don't have to worry about me drinking and saying something that'll get us canceled or commented on YouTube because somebody thought we were wrong about something. But we are here. Welcome into the Fourth Mother Box. I am Tom Ogre. You are following us at Fourth Mother Box on Instagram, Facebook Fourth Mother Box, and YouTube.com/Fourth Mother Box. Joining me as always is the stand-in for Short Round in the porno Indiana Bones, Kyle Cosentino. Kyle, how the hell are you today?
First off, fuck you.
Thank you.
And secondly, I have a question for you.
Okay.
It's a very important question.
Yes.
Did you do your research today? In particular, about DC. Did you do your research? Because that's very important on the Fourth Mother Box.
I
you can't
did.
just riff.
If by research you mean just take a mad steaming pile of crap while I read some things, then absolutely I did my research today, Kyle. Did you do yours?
I did. I did the exact same thing. And I feel like that's good enough for here, right?
That's more than good enough for this podcast. We're not expecting this to be, fantastic or perfect. And in fact, you people come here for the train wreck, right? You come here for the disaster. That's what makes Fourth Mother Box who we are, right? Everything that we do turns to crap. So thank you for subscribing and listening, either watching here on YouTube. Our most recent video of asking and talking an episode of why The Flash is doing so poorly at the box office. By the way, it might be Warner Brothers and DC's worst flop of all time. That's like an official thing, so not a good look. And I saw The Flash a second time, and I really liked it again. But what I wanted to say was our last episode was our most popular as of late. So thank you for those downloads. And I saw The Flash again, and it was fun. But we talked so much about The Flash in DC, and if you've listened to us for 2+ years here on the Fourth Mother Box, Kyle is. Indiana Jones is his Star Wars, is his, second to none to DC and other things, right? And then I just finally jumped in the fray. But this is a huge weekend for Indiana Jones fans, and I'm happy to officially call myself one of them, sporting the Raiders shirt today. And the moment I see an action figure in the parks that's in good packaging, I'm going to pick one up. But first and foremost, Kyle, happy Indiana Jones weekend to you. I mean, how does this feel like for this type of release? Because I know how it feels as like a Star Wars mark, as like a Star Wars fanboy. When there's a Star Wars release, like it's epic, right? And even thinking back to when like The Force Awakens coming out, it's just a different vibe. So what's the vibe for you this weekend?
Well, it's a lot. It's kind of a lot to process because I, like so many other people, grew up with Indiana Jones. This was like the movie of my childhood, and I'm sure a lot of people could say the same. And so this is like the second time in my life that I got to go to the theater and see an Indiana Jones film, like a brand new one. And I hope it's not the last time. I know Harrison Ford said he's Indiana Jones, and when he's done playing the character, so is Indiana Jones. But I kind of feel like it's too big of a character. Like this is probably one of the best action adventure movies of all time, right? The original Raiders of the Lost Ark, the original trilogy. I mean, they're just iconic. It defines that sort of genre. This is what spawned Tomb Raider and Uncharted and stuff like that. So it's just too iconic. I hope it doesn't end here. I think, I would be totally open to like a reboot, like down the line. I mean, obviously, Harrison Ford is 80, even though he still wants to work and everything. But I would look forward to seeing that as long as it kind of was, you know, true to the originals, like as much as possible, because I know they can't just capture that anymore. I remember a long time ago that they said they're going to do some sort of spin-off in the world of Indiana Jones. I don't know if that's still going. I haven't heard anything about it ever since.
Interesting.
But you know, yeah, it feels really surreal. Like I feel like we only get so few things in Indiana Jones, even like the merchandise. And I've said this every time I come to Disney World, like where the fuck is the merchandise for Indiana Jones? And they never like had shit. And now it's like exploded.
Yeah, it's been better. It's been
Everywhere.
way better as of late. Way better.
Even on like other websites, I mean, Funkos, there's like a million Funkos of Indiana Jones. I'm seeing t-shirts left and right. Hot Topic has like 400. And I'm like, this is insane, you know, because we never really got a lot in the past and now we're getting so much. So I'm very happy. You know, this was a very like, you know, kind of like, I don't want to say once in a lifetime, but I'm glad that I got to see another one in my lifetime. And I was happy with the final film. I was a bit weary going in because I saw it on Friday night, and actually it was Brad who kind of like made me a little bit more excited because he saw it and he texted me right away and he said that he loved it. And you know, that just kind of made me think like maybe the critics are just full of shit this time.
Of course they are.
And which is insane. This is the most insane turnaround I've ever seen because like it went to Cannes like a month or so ago, and then everybody was panning it. There was article after article after article saying this is going to be a flop. This is going to be the worst thing you've ever seen. It's going to look like this and that. And then it comes out, and then it's like, then I look on Rotten Tomatoes, and then it's like at a 67%, I think, for critics, and then like 85 or 90 for like the people who've actually seen it.
89%.
So-
We just looked it up on Jedi Talk last night. You're exactly right. It's like 67 critics and 89 audience.
So I'm really happy that this didn't go the route of, you know, Halloween Ends or anything like that.
Yeah.
Or even The Flash, because I think everywhere that I keep reading comments from people who've seen it, and it's overwhelmingly positive. Now, you know, again, like I was telling you, is this like the original three? No, not even close. Okay, so the original three is just that was a product of its time, and you really can't capture that again. However, this was a really fun film, and I really liked the way it ended. And if you haven't seen it yet, we're going to be talking some spoilers. So we'll talk a little bit about what happened at the end, and I'll give you a minute to click off if you haven't seen it yet. But
Well, let me before we get in there, let me give my like non-spoiler thoughts and just kind of explain how my Indiana Jones fandom kind of is now a thing over the course of the past week. Right, and I have zero rhyme or reason to why I never watched these films growing up. Really, I mean, like I had nobody in my family who was like into it, like Kyle's level, or like making it a movie event. Right, I'd go to movie events growing up, right, like Jurassic Park and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, shit like that. I was into, but and Batman and you know, but you know, Indiana Jones, just for whatever reason. I mean, in two there were no releases for Indy when I was at that age, right? I was alive when The Last Crusade was released, but that was 89. I was 3, so I'm not going to see that, right? I would have no inkling to want to see that unless like one of my parents did, and they just weren't into it. Nobody in my family was, but so, and I just never got around to watching them, and it's just kind of how I late bloomed into Star Wars, and better late than never. I don't regret that I didn't get into Indy sooner. Maybe I regret I didn't get a chance to like be happy when Kingdom of the Crystal Skull came out, but I watched it. I caught up before seeing Indy 5 yesterday morning, and it's just I completely understand the love for this character, the love for these movies now. Not saying I didn't understand it before, because I know how Lucasfilm can do it for me with Star Wars, but it's like, oh man, and and it's so cool to see Harrison Ford thrive in like another role. I got a little nervous at first when I was starting to watch these movies. I'm like, am I not going to be able to see past Han Solo here, kind of thing? Because I'm like, is he playing the same character? But then that was completely wrong. Like, right, I was able, oh, this is Indiana Jones and Han Solo's Han Solo. You know, I watched Raiders and I was like, okay, I understand what Indiana Jones movies are, what to expect. Right, they're fun, action packed, and there's something there to unpack. You know, Temple of Doom couldn't stand Willie, but it was still a good movie, right? And then The Last Crusade is what locked me in. Didn't expect for the movie to be that good, but God, you know, the chemistry between Connery and Harrison, you know, with the comedy. I mean, you know a movie's going to be good when a fat kid falls off a horse within like the first 3 minutes of the movie. So it's a good sign. So then after that, I just the excitement rose.
Way,
yeah.
Real quick, you know, like in that opening scene, you know who that was who played young Indy, right?
No.
That was River Phoenix. That was Joaquin Phoenix's brother.
Oh wow.
Who died.
Yeah.
So
wow.
He was the original young Indiana Jones. I've actually never watched the Young Indiana Jones series. I know it's on Disney Plus.
It is.
And actually, at the very end, Harrison Ford makes a cameo. And
does he?
He does. It's very brief, but he's sporting a beard, and because I think that was the time he was doing the movie The Fugitive.
Oh.
And and then I think he plays a saxophone or something like that. I don't know. But
is he Indiana Jones?
He's Indiana Jones,
for
sure.
And he plays a saxophone.
I remember I watched it on YouTube. I should watch that. I should just watch that whole series. But yeah, so they like, you know, definitely there's some history there, some cool insight there. But you know, it's really cool to see that from your perspective, because I watched this when I was younger, like a lot of people, and you kind of missed that boat. So it's a little different seeing it from the perspective of somebody who's, you know, that era is long gone, you know?
Yeah, no, 1,000%. And it's like, I kind of wish I had seen it sooner, but then taking it in now, it's just different. It's something else that you can get into, some other nerdum that you can get locked up in. And I'm probably going to get around to watching the Young Indiana Jones Adventures or Indiana Jones Chronicles, whatever they're calling them now, on Disney Plus, because they're there. I haphazardly started one of them, but I wasn't paying attention, and then I just saw what his dog looked like, who he's, you know, named after, rather. So, but that's so cool. And then, you know, finally watch Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, was it Thursday? And that movie's so divisive. It's fine in my eyes. It's the weakest of all five. It's fine in my eyes, but it loses me with when the alien becomes real, when all the skeletons connect together. Like, I'm like, oh, if you just kept it the skeletons with the crystal skull, it would have looked better. And then the fucking saucer taking off just felt out of place. That just felt out of place in that movie. But it's still an okay flick. It's still an okay Indiana Jones movie. It's just the weakest of the five. I'm right there with you. I loved Indiana Jones 5. I was happy that I was able to do a theatrical release to it. You know, Courtney and I go to Studio Movie Grill. We went at 10 a.m. on Saturday morning. There were three other couples in there, and both Courtney and I were the youngest ones by many, many decades. So it's like score.
Has Courtney seen them?
Yep.
Or did you guys watch them together?
We watched together. Yep, we watched together, and she was the same way as me. It feels like Crystal was the weakest. She loves Indiana Jones 5. Thought it was really good. And she agrees with me. We just don't understand. I mean, and I go back to IGN. Everyone's, you know, their opinion is valid, but how in God's name do you give this movie a 4? And
you know, I'll feel that because I look on IGN almost every day, right? I have done that for many, many years. And it used to be a more reputable website where they really just focused on, you know, video games and movies, right? And it was a lot more respectful back in the day. But now I feel like it's politicized. And let me field that by saying if you're on their Facebook or even go on their website, because I see this article all the time. They always have articles that say, "Here's how to cancel your Netflix." And they've been doing this for years. And I'm like, why do they do that? Why are they telling you how to cancel Netflix? Why do they dedicate a whole article about that? And why do they keep doing it? I mean, maybe there's a lot of reasons you should cancel your Netflix. I know, especially right now when they kicked me off my parents' Netflix. I'm not happy with them, and even though The Witcher's out right now, I'm not giving them any money. But that's beside the point. But like, why would they do that? It's like, what do they have to gain? So that's what makes me think like there's some political leanings there for whatever reason. And some of their like reviews are just so fucking bananas, like absolute bananas. I mean, they're infamous for reviewing The Last Jedi really, really well. I mean, you should know that, I'm sure. But sometimes like a really great movie lands, and I just don't even understand why they give it such a shit review. You could almost predict it. Like I predicted Jedi Survivor, exactly what they're going to give. They're not going to give it a 10. No way. But Zelda drops 10. Anytime a Zelda drops 10. So
Do you think Zelda was a 10? You're playing it, right?
I mean, I was actually just playing it right before,
Oh, nice.
and it is a 10.
Okay.
100%.
Good.
I mean,
Good to hear.
they kind of copied and pasted some stuff, but I'm a longtime Zelda fan. It's a 10. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it just doesn't have like the story that Jedi Survivor has. It doesn't. The characters don't draw you in.
Yeah.
And that's more of my personal preference. And obviously,
me too. Yeah.
it's on the Switch, which is like Xbox 360, basically. Actually, it's like I feel like I would rate that as like just above Nintendo 64 graphics. Maybe like a little bit better, but maybe I'll get some shit for saying that. But like, fucking Nintendo, give us a new system already, Jesus. Anyway,
They sure as hell are getting everything they can out of the Switch, though. Switch is good.
that's true.
Yeah,
Switch is
is good.
dominating. I don't understand why, but I think it's more of like an indie game thing. I don't know. My buddy loves Nintendo Switch that I work with, and he's like, it's all about the indie games now.
Yeah.
So
So before we jump into spoilers for Indiana Jones 5, I did want to ask you a question and hear me out on this, right? Or suggest something to you. So you want to see the Indiana Jones verse continue, right? Past Harrison, right? He turns 81. I was looking this up earlier because I was just curious of what age he was when they were filming this, and I saw he's 80 right now. He'll be 81. Mm-hmm. He'll be 81 later this month, mid to late July. So, I mean, it's unless he plays like a Nick Fury type of mentor to somebody in, let's just say, 5 years maybe, he's not coming back to do action shit, right? But it's like, should he, right? And I think the right path for testing the waters or expanding the Indiana Jones verse is to capitalize on the video game that you've been talking about that's coming and make that canon, and then so that gives content to and expands Indiana Jones universe right beyond movies, beyond TV, and then we can kind of mess around with that for a while and then start talking about films. What are your thoughts on that? Is this video game even going to be canon, or is it just like a fun Indiana Jones like venture? Do we know that yet?
I don't know if it's actually canon or not. I mean, they say I think it takes place between Raiders and Temple of Doom. I think that's the time frame of the video game. There's been very little details. I mean, I've watched one of the producers talk about it from Bethesda a little bit. They said it's just, it's going to be different than what you've seen, and it's like a love letter to Raiders of the Lost Ark. So
okay.
I'm super, super excited because I've been clamoring for a good Indiana Jones game for years and years and years. And we just like haven't got one in a really long time. So
what was the best one? Because I haven't touched any of them growing up. What was the best one?
All of them are dated now. But, I grew up, I remember like I didn't have a PC when I was younger. This was like 8th grade. And I remember my neighbor got a PC, and they just released the Indiana Jones and the Infernal Machine. And I remember going over there and playing it, and I was just like, this is the game that like I fell in love with, and it's the only reason I want to get a PC. I'm like, I have to get a PC, and because I need to play this game, and so it's that. But if you go back and look, it's so outdated, and a lot of them are. So, I mean, take your pick. I think a lot of Indiana Jones fans of like the video games would probably point to Fate of Atlantis, which
Oh, yeah.
was even older than Infernal Machine, because it was like one of those point and click games. It was like just above maybe somewhere between like Atari and Nintendo graphics.
Really? Okay.
But I actually played a lot of that when I was younger. You could still get it like on Steam and stuff, but yeah, it's very dated. So I'm really hoping like for Unreal 5 technology style video game. I can't wait
Yeah. Okay.
for that to come out. But
Me too.
I don't want Harrison Ford obviously to continue because like his time is done. I don't know if they'll reboot it, but I would be open to it as long as they casted it appropriately, which, good luck to anybody stepping into those shoes, but like they really could do it. Like I don't see why that some characters are off limits, like some characters pass away or they move on and then all of a sudden they're untouchable. They did it with Han Solo. I mean, Han Solo is arguably one of the most iconic, action adventure characters of all time in cinema too. And I think, they might even continue with that actor and do another one. I don't know. I guess there's been some rumblings about that.
Yeah,
Maybe,
the rumor
right?
is Aaron
Ehrenreich.
Ehrenreich. Yeah, whatever. Alden Ehrenreich, right? Yeah, I'm so bad with his name. So bad with his name because it's complicated in my complicated mind. The rumor is that he and a young recast Princess Leia with no CGI is going to be in Filoni's movie that wraps up the Mandalorian universe. So that was just a rumor floating around, and we'll see. I mean, we're still years away from that movie, so. So, by the way, before we jump into Indy 5 spoilers, Kyle, I'm sorry that you were booted off your parents' Netflix account. Your mother had to make a decision, and she kept me on instead of
Fuck
keeping you.
you.
So, as we move it along to Indiana 5 spoilers, speaking of CGI, right off the bat, we got hit with flashback. We didn't even see New Indy. It was just Indiana Jones. Now, this is, you got to help me out. This was post Last Crusade when we saw him, correct?
Honestly, I was wondering that myself.
Okay.
I don't know, but they kept saying like Indy kept saying your Fuhrer lost and everything, and obviously, what was it? Jorgen Volnir, I think his name was. Mads Mikkelsen's character kept
Yep.
saying like Hitler made mistakes. I want to go back and correct them. So I think it was after Hitler like lost, and I don't know. I don't know what time frame it was. I kind of wish that they like talked a little bit more about. They added a little bit more Easter eggs from like the prior films. Like it would have been cool if, he was infiltrating that Nazi castle or wherever that town where all the Nazis took over.
Yeah.
And they were saying, "Oh, that's Dr. Jones. He made
killed
us
my
lose the
father."
Ark." Or he disrupted our ability to get the Ark of the Covenant or the Holy Grail or something like that. Like I kind of wish they added stuff like that, or even just little things like Harrison Ford is like they show him like in the future and he takes off his shirt, but you don't see any whip marks like on his back from like Temple of the Doom.
Oh.
So it's like stuff like that. I kind of wish they threw in there more, but it was, I mean, obviously okay, but yeah, I don't know exactly what that time period was. I would assume it was like probably towards the end of the war.
Yeah. And again, if you're going to rake us over the coals in the comments here, we both only saw the movie once, so calm the fuck down. So what did you think of that CGI? What did you think of the de-aging there? Because I thought it looked fine.
Fine is the word I would use for it.
The biggest issue I had was his voice, because his voice was very clearly 80-year-old Harrison Ford.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, 100%. I wish they de-aged his voice as well. I mean, I don't think this technology is fully realized yet. I think it's amazing.
They did it
It
with
really
Luke.
is. They did, but it's like it's still kind of a little bit I don't know what the word I would use, but I would just say it's not fully realized yet, but I
Okay.
think in 5 years, 4 or 5 years, this is going to be like damn near perfect. So I thought the CGI was great for what it was. Like they took all the history of Lucasfilm of every time he's been on screen and when he was younger. So this is like old Indy, old Han Solo, and they used it to make his CGI. So it was like really amazing that they were able to
Yeah.
harness. Or they said they used artificial intelligence to make his face from all
Boo.
this history of footage.
Boo.
Yeah, AI. So, but I think it was fine. Could it have been better? Sure, but I didn't. After a while, I didn't think it was that big of a deal. But you're right. I think I wish they like de-aged his voice just a little bit because he didn't sound like young Harrison Ford. Which maybe we're getting nitpicky with that, but it's true.
Yeah. I would have loved to have heard him say, Evan, shut the fuck up.
Oh God, especially after Evan's analysis of Dial of Destiny, he
I'll let
really
you.
needs to say
Yeah.
that.
I'll let you listen to Jedi Talk because we like the first 45 minutes of that show yesterday was all about Indiana Jones 5, and there was a good, it was a healthy discussion amongst us and Evan about his biggest gripes with Indiana Jones 5 or Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. But I really, sitting here thinking about the movie, we're not going to go piece by piece. I just kind of want to talk about the great things, maybe the not so great things. But like as I sit back and I really digest that movie, and it's like, first off, in my humble opinion, and if you didn't like it, that's completely fine. I would just like to know why, because I had a very fun time. I thought it was a good Indiana Jones story. I don't think anything was shoved in our faces. As far as like woke and anti-woke are such buzzwords. This and I'm just gonna say they didn't go woke. It's just to kind of make a point, right? It's like look at the movie that they made. Nothing was shoved in our faces, this side or that side. It was just fun. It was entertaining. It was a fantasy story that hit the marks for people from their childhood and also introduced new generations to a America's or cinema's best action hero, right? Arguably in Harrison Ford, right? Legendary, a legacy ended. There was so much going on, so much good stuff happened, right? And we allow some liberties as like nerds watching movies, right? And being fans of this stuff. But I really have a tough time seeing how somebody would walk out and just be like, that was the worst thing ever. They ruined Indiana Jones. Right? It's hard for me. And I know I'm a new fan to it, but it's just not easy. And I know you understand this fandom better than I do, but I just don't get it, man. I thought it was fine.
Well, it's the same like slave lay of bikini wearing people that live in their parents' basement. These are the ones that are really complaining about it. And maybe, some of the criticisms are justified, right? It's not like The Last Crusade or Raiders of the Lost Ark or Temple of Doom.
Yeah.
I mean,
I actually think it's better than Temple of Doom.
Temple of Doom actually gets some shit sometimes. But one of the things that I think they did really well was they made him. I mean, obviously Indiana Jones is older, but like it wasn't like they made him look good, despite his age. And like even still, like it's just still impressive to see an 80-year-old man doing this stuff. I feel like he's probably in better shape than most 30-year-olds, which is awesome and inspirational. But they really didn't make him like old and feeble and cowering in the corner like a lot of the reviews were saying. It's like, get prepared to see Indiana Jones cowering in the corner. Like that didn't happen.
How? Yeah.
Like it's like all these reviews kept coming out and people kept saying this is what happens, but they didn't even see the fucking movie yet. So I think they did him really well. I think actually all the characters did really well. Mads Mikkelsen did well. Phoebe Waller-Bridge did well. Like it was really well balanced. I mean, maybe it was a bit long, and maybe they could have cut some fat here and there, but I think it was really well done. You know,
I'm a Snyder guy, so if you give me 4 hours of something, I'm not going to care. It couldn't be long, but I like detail, so I was fine with the length. That's what she said.
you know, I was kind of wondering. I actually didn't think of this until I was watching the film because we really didn't know what the Dial of Destiny was. We knew it had something to do with like time travel, and the fact that they, spoiler alert, killed off his son Mutt. I was wondering, I'm like, is he going to use this thing to go back and like change history? Are we going to see Shia LaBeouf's character? Are we going to see maybe Sean Connery? I know Sean Connery passed away, but like if you've seen Ghostbusters Afterlife, like they CGI'd Harold Ramis in that shit, and it made sense to the story.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean he was a ghost, but yeah,
but even just like it's kind of like Tony Stark going back in time, just getting that final like validation from his father in Endgame, which was really really cool to see. I was just wondering if that was going to happen, but they didn't.
happy
They
it
didn't do
didn't.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, maybe it didn't need that. I think Mutt dying was a good plot device and like a really good for the story. And I think that paid off especially at the ending for sure. And I think Harrison Ford really sold that part when he was talking about it
yeah, he
to
did.
Helena on the boat, where if he can go back in time, this is what he would have done differently with his kid, so he didn't pass away. I thought that was a really well done scene, and the emotional payoff of that comes at the very end, which again, spoiler alert. Marion shows up, and at the very end, and I don't know about you, but I was texting Brad this, but man, that scene where she shows up kind of got me in the feels because like they kind of depicted him as like depressed and
Yeah.
like he has this whole life of doing these amazing things and he has nothing to show for it. I mean, he's got students who are not interested in his class. He's like at the end of his life. He doesn't have anybody. His kid has died and his wife has left him. And so I really think her showing up at the end was like the best ending we could have gotten for him. Like I didn't want him to stay in Syracuse, I think that's where that battle was.
Yes.
I mean, although that could have been an interesting ending, and actually Brad pointed this out, is that could have been an interesting ending. But I preferred the one we got.
Me too. It could have been, and I get what Brad was saying. He was saying how like he loves history so much. Him living and dying in history would be the ultimate send off for his life. But the ending we got was way way better. Speaking of the ending, with Marion showing up, Karen Allen coming, with groceries and stuff and ice cream, and Sala coming and taking the kids away so they can have that awesome moment. And yeah, it got me in the feels. Like they recreated the Raiders moment with kissing the elbow. But Karen Allen was talking, doing an interview, I think, on one of the premieres or like a carpet. And when Steven Spielberg had hold of this movie before, the writers that he had attached to it, it was more of an indie Marion story than it was what we got. And she just expressed a little bit like she wishes she could have done more, but she's accepted the role where she just kind of shows up and surprises at the end. So I thought that was interesting to make note of.
I think that would have been cool to see. I also kind of wish that even though I didn't mind Phoebe Waller-Bridge's performance, I thought she did well. That movie would have been so much better if they had Ke Huy Quan in as the role of short round older, and maybe like Indy, he shows up after not seeing Indy for so long, and like he like gives him the honorary title of his godson or something like that. I don't know, but I would have could you imagine if that was the story? Like maybe he
That would have been
comes
cool.
back into Indy's life and he needs help with something, and he decides to go on one more adventure with him. I mean, it's an established character that we already know.
I'm
and
really
it would've-
surprised we didn't get a cameo from him.
He showed up at the premiere with Harrison Ford, so I was like, him and Marion, Karen Allen were there. So where are we going to get? Are they secretly in the film? I knew that like somebody was going to be in the film. It had to have been one of them. But I just wish if they did it over again, like they did that.
Yeah.
And Ki Huy Kwan came back into acting, and he just won, Best Actor for Everything Everywhere All at Once last year or something like that. So, hell, that would have made perfect sense.
Is he going to be in the Goonies sequel or whatever they're doing?
Is that ever going to come out? Because
I don't know. I know they've been talking about that for a hot minute, but
forever,
yeah.
like 40 years. I mean, they could really do it well now because it's like 40 years later or something, 30, 40 years later.
Yep.
And, they're old enough to have their own kids. So that would be a perfect storyline.
It really
I
would.
think.
It really would. I just need to see Slick Shoes one more time in my life. Yeah, what else more is there to say about Indiana Jones 5? It's an action-packed, as every Indiana Jones movie is, and it's like there's a good heart-warming story to it. There's good new characters. I don't know, change something about it. What did I dislike? I said in the beginning, Harrison's voice there was just a little, and I think I'm nitpicking. I said on Jedi Talk last night, Kyle, and I'll say it again because I believe in it. I give this movie a 9 out of 10, and it lands on my third favorite of all 5 Indiana Jones movies.
I'd say that's a fair assessment. And I wouldn't change very much. I just wish they might have spent a little bit more time talking about the Dial of Destiny and like what it is, because, and maybe I just missed it. Granted, we have only seen it once,
Right.
and the time fissures thing I didn't really understand right away because you kind of didn't know what it was until they started going into the time fissure. Like, what is that? Is that, are they in certain points on the planet? Are they like, you know what I mean? Like the dial is supposed
Right.
to point to one, but then they didn't. It's like they just used the dial and then it was like right there, right where they were. So I felt like I wish they would have talked a little bit more about that. But other than that, I'd say I would give it a 9 out of 10 for sure. I think I would put that probably at number 3 too.
Okay.
Or well, let me think about this. I don't know. I just feel like the trilogy. Maybe I would put it at like number 4.
Okay.
And just because like the original trilogy is just so like it's its own thing.
I
Like,
get it.
It's truly authentic to the character.
I get it.
But yeah, obviously Crystal Skull would be number 5.
Agreed.
And Indy 5 would be 4. I'd say maybe Temple of Doom would be 3. Oh God, how do I even rate those?
It's clear to me. I don't know. I know I'm a different fan.
Last Crusade number 1. We'll
Yes.
say today I'm saying Last Crusade number 1, Raiders number 2.
I think that's the right. Yeah, I would rank 1 to 5. Last Crusade, Raiders number 2, number 3, Indiana Jones 5 or Indiana Jones of the Dial of Destiny. I know it's not Indy 5. 4 would be Temple of Doom, and 5 would be Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. And there's a good gap between my 4 and 5. Decent gap between 3 and 4 too, but not that big. So, yeah, there we go. What did you think of it? Let us know in the comments anywhere. Go on Instagram at Fourth Mother Box or YouTube if you're watching this, and let us know what you thought of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. A lot of great stuff in there, and I'm sure we will continue to talk about it if we see it again. Or, I'm so curious what this movie's going to do at the box office too. So
Yeah. 'Cause
hopefully
we don't
very
know-
well.
Like, this is kind of like what happened with The Flash, too. I mean, everybody who's seen The Flash thinks it's a good movie. Like, I feel like everybody that I know that have seen it thinks it's a good movie.
Mm-hmm.
I read the comments all the time of people, like, everybody loved it. But for some reason, it didn't do financially. And maybe we could just chalk that up to, like, Ezra Miller and, the fact that, like, why should we invest in it? You know,
I'm with
when
you.
it's the end of
I'm with you. Well,
end of the era.
let's kind of dive into that a little bit and segue with DC. So we got some future DC news with the official announcing of our new Superman and our new Lois Lane, David Cornsweet, and Rachel Brosnahan, and I believe I'm saying that correct. Now, just based on when you're hearing these names, Kyle, did you know who either one of these people are when they announced them?
Nope.
Okay. I know when I looked up Rachel Brosnahan, I know she's in The Fabulous Mrs. Maisel. And I know that's a very popular show. Courtney's watched it. I've seen bits and pieces of it. And I know she likes it. I believe it's a well-received show. I think it's still on the air. I think it's an Amazon Prime series. She's the lead role. I mean, based on looks alone, I think they did a great job for both actor and actress here in these roles. I heard that David is 6'4", or I read that he is 6'4", so that's a very tall Superman. I think Rachel's like 6'3", so it's going to be kind of comic accuracy, where like Superman is like larger than life kind of thing, and then Lois Lane is like all down here and stuff. So kind of like when Kyle and I stand next to each other. So
Again, fuck you, sir.
it took you a second.
Why don't you go? Why don't you go work at Casa Bonita?
I will, and make $30 an hour. No, I make more than that. But yeah, I saw Casa Bonita was in the news where they're not allowing tipping for their wait staff because they're paying them like a higher wage or something. So,
which is actually surprising because like that's a good wage. Like, why even go to college anymore? You know?
I mean, I'm not a. Well, don't get me started on the college system.
There's actually a lot of examples of where people didn't go to college and they just got a job and gets paid more than people who went to college. So it's like, who's the idiot now, right?
Now who's laughing? What do you think about these two? I don't want to spend too much time on the news other than welcome to the DC family. We hope you both do well. I apologize in advance for the terrible human beings that you'll encounter on the internet.
Yeah, I think, if we had to recast, this was good. I like no-name people. I mean, maybe people know who these individuals are, but I like people that I don't know a lot about, and I think that's the best way to go. I mean, David Cornsweet's what, like 28?
Yeah, I think
28, 29.
I believe Rachel is like 32, so I think that's about a good age for Lois Lane.
They really could have used Henry Cavill. I'm just going to say that. I mean, even Henry Cavill's like, what, 41?
Yes.
And maybe, like, I'm beating a dead horse here, but...
You are.
I mean, you look at CGI, like, I don't understand it. I think there's a lot of things that maybe the public don't know with that whole ordeal. And I think it's great, though. But David Cornsweet's kind of like almost a carbon copy of Henry Cavill. It seems like, well, we just got this new guy that's, 10 years younger. We know that the wonders of CGI, the wonders of CGI and what it can do. Like, why are we like, doing this? But I digress.
Maybe we'll eventually find out on some sort of documentary in 20 years that somebody does.
It'll come out. It'll come out somehow.
Yeah.
It's the Walter Hamada universe that just plots.
Whatever. James Wan recently was talking to comicbook.com's Chris Killian, and Chris asked the question on what so many fans are wondering about: what's the reason to see Aquaman 2? Does it even matter in a larger DC movie franchise? And James said, well, Aquaman, even the first film, has always been a very standalone film. I'm going to comment on that in a second. That was always our approach, that it kind of lives in its own world, and that's kind of how we've approached The Lost Kingdom as well, Juan explained. People love Jason Momoa. People love him playing this role, and people love the action visuals of this space in this world. And that's what we're doing. We're taking it to the next level, and we aren't expanding. And just any fans of Aquaman, the character that love Black Manta, this is the next level, and I'm very excited to put out there and show them what we've been working on all these years. So I kind of want to just call him out a little bit. on his comment about how it's standalone. Now, need I remind you that in like the beginning of Aquaman, the movie that came out in December of 2018, when Mara walks out of the ocean after she wiped her butt clean of the poop, after she walked out of the ocean, she sees Arthur with his father as they just got done drinking, and she's like, "You saved Steppenwolf from, you saved the world from Steppenwolf," and it's like, well, that's really not standalone. They're talking about what happened in Zack Snyder's Justice League. Thank you very much. So it's just like, I really do feel for these directors, right? It's like they're kind of DC, in like Warner Brothers fucks with their products so bad they're left to just kind of fumble in the spotlight, because James Wan doesn't really know where his story ends up. Aquaman 2 was greenlit well before James Gunn took over, and they changed everything. They probably aren't going to recast Jason Momoa because he is a fan favorite, even though his support for Ezra Miller makes me look at him a little bit differently. But I'm okay with him being Aquaman for the time being.
Question. Why is Mara not in this film now? If they're going to allow Ezra Miller to be the lead, like, why not have Mara in there? Why not have Amber Heard be in her scenes? Like,
she's in there. When they showed like a sneak peek that never made it online earlier this year at some con. Mara was in there for a hot minute, as and it was Amber Heard, but they probably did some slicing and dicing. So,
well, the only thing I think that's good from the new universe is that it's a new universe. It's a chance to start again, reshape public opinion. I don't know. I don't know if it'll be any better though. Like, I just don't know. I think it'll be interesting to see how this does. I think people resonated well with the new casting for Superman and Lois Lane. But again, I don't know how that's going to be. I almost kind of feel like, if we're looking at their properties, at least they can't really fuck with like Harry Potter too much because they're basing it off the books. Maybe they'll take some liberties when they're doing the TV show. But they can't really put their hands in the pot too much because it's like you can't deviate from the story that's already been set.
Right.
DC, they just do whatever the fuck they want and think people like it. But
yeah, it's based on these stories from these characters, right? Like, we got like half of the Flashpoint paradox in the Flash. So,
I mean, at least Flashpoint had some nods to the storyline of Flashpoint. It's very unlike Secret Invasion, which we'll talk about shortly.
Oh, hopefully not that long. The first Aquaman movie had some callbacks to some pretty good Aquaman stories too. But yeah, let's just get there as we're wrapping up today. Secret Invasion. Indiana Jones 5 was great. We love the Flash, but God, Secret Invasion should have stayed a secret. It's boring, right? It's boring.
I keep and I forgot about it again this week. That's my level of excitement. Like, I keep forgetting. I'm like, oh, it's Wednesday. Like, Secret Invasion's out today, and it's like the day's almost over. I'm like, I totally forgot. So I think that's the level of excitement. I hope it gets better. I do. I just don't know. Like, I don't know. I actually saw the trailer for The Marvels 2 in the theater, which I didn't watch it for the first time. And I think I could see this TV show playing into that storyline.
Oh yeah, I mean, this is like a bridge between Captain Marvel and the Marvels, I think, because they're doing a bunch of callbacks from Captain Marvel. Episode 2 should have been called "Nick Fury Falls Asleep on a Train While Talking to Director Krennic." That's like really all I remember from it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I don't know, there's something off about Samuel L. Jackson in this series for me. I don't know what it is.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't kind of get that impression.
It just could be because I'm bored with it, right? Like, I'm invested in the characters, and I actually applaud the creative decision they made at the end of episode 1, killing Maria Hill. I like that character, right? So that's a big loss. Let's see if they stick with it, unless we find out she was a Skrull or something, or this was, as I'm sure Evan's saying, this is Earth 612. so she's going to survive in another Earth and show up. But it's just Secret Invasion to me is just it's boring right now. But I'm still invested somehow, and I wanted to see the story out. That's where I sit.
I mean, it's cast really well. They have, Krennic in there and Kira. I mean,
They do.
That's great.
They
and
do.
Sam Jackson is always great, I feel like.
Yeah, he's great. I'm not saying he's not great. He just seemed off to me. That's all.
I kind of feel like it's a little bit more stripped down. I mean, it's kind of like, it's like, Don Cheadle is in there, Rhodey, but are we going to see War Machine? Like, are we going to see that?
Yeah, it might lead up
No.
to. Isn't he got a movie? Doesn't he have a movie coming out?
That's the.
Or is he
The
in
one
Captain
with-
America?
I think he's in Captain America, but he's also in the movie with the oh god, what the fuck is that called? It's like with the crazy Captain America and White Widow. I'm like, my brain is like stupid today.
the Thundercats or whatever.
Yeah, the Thundercats.
Yeah, okay.
We'll just call it the Thunder. Yeah, see, we didn't do our research today, so Marvel's the Thundercats. Thunderbolts.
Thunderbolts. The Thundercats. It is the Thunderbolts, isn't it? It's not the Thundercats. The Thundercats is something completely else. Fuck you guys. Whatever.
I love Harrison Ford. His response when somebody asked him, like, "So you're cast in the next Captain America as Colonel Ross or whatever the fuck his name is,
Red Hulk.
Red. Are you going to be the Red Hulk?" He's like, "What's a Red Hulk?"
What the fuck is that? Can I snort it? So Secret Invasion is boring, and we're not going to let it bore you to tears like this show might have done. But thank you for joining us today. Kyle, do you have any last thoughts about Indy 5, or does anything really today?
Yeah, you sound like a robot right now. I don't know why. It's really weird.
Oh, that's weird. It's not picking up that I sound like a robot, so.
I do have some final thoughts. I would say that our good pal Evan, T. Butt Scratcher, thinks differently of Indiana Jones. I don't know what he thinks. I just know that he thinks differently. I'm going to listen to it on Jedi Talk when I see that I just got a notification you guys dropped it today. So I'm just going to leave this for Evan. Evan, shut the fuck up.